If you were to ask someone what they think the worst moon in Super Mario Odyssey is, or maybe what their 3 least favorite moons are, the volleyball moons in Seaside Kingdom are more than likely going to be right up there at the top. They're slow to begin, punishing towards the end, and overall can be quite frustrating as a bunch of Odyssey mechanics can work against you while trying to hit this stupid ball 100 times to make this damn snail happy. Today, I'm going to be going through a few ways that you can make these moons easier for yourself to help you grab those last 2 moons in the moon list. So, if you've ever tried to get these moons before, you're probably pretty familiar with this scenario. You start up the game of volleyball, you run around trying to grab it before it hits the floor, it gets faster and faster, and eventually you miss one and you lose the game before hitting 100. Or you just pull a me and lose almost straight away. Well, I must admit, doing it this way is quite the bold strategy, but not quite the smartest. Just like not checking out the Twitch channel isn't the smartest decision either. What are you doing? Come say hi while I'm live. Or something. Maybe. I don't know. I live in Australia, so probably not. But link is down below regardless. Let's start off with some important things to remember before going through some strategies to encourage success. First off, when the ball hits the ground, you don't instantly fail. You have around a second or so before the game gives you the miss. This is very helpful and can maybe help calm some nerves a little bit. If you jump up in the air and throw Cappy at the ball while you're close, you can get what's called a spike, where the ball is instantly thrown back towards the snail, sort of like a two-handed slam in real life. This can help you get through some of the earlier stages of the volleyball game that are quite slow, but might not help you out too much as it gets faster. When you do the aforementioned spikes, coins spawn all around you, which doesn't sound all too bad by itself, but is important to keep in mind as Cappy loves to automatically home into coins if you throw him close to them, which could lose you the game if you aren't paying attention. It happens to me a lot. And then last off, the speed gets maxed out at around about 48. Now, how do we take all this information and do something useful with it? Some people swear by 2-player mode. Some people have some wild up-throw strategy that can quickly backfire on you. What exactly is the most reliable way? Well, to spike every single ball you can to 100, of course. Or, for those that don't want to lose their mind, here is what I would actually recommend. Personally, I've never really preferred the 2-player method. I've always found it to make things sort of harder than they really needed to be honest, and of course, within the context of a speed run, you can't use 2-player mode anyway, so I never really cared too much for it. So within the confines of single-player mode, what I recommend is once you start the game of volleyball, that is, get yourself as close to the center as you can, and then try adjusting the camera in a way where you can see as much depth information as possible. So sort of how I have it here. This might sound like a stupid comment on the surface, but the more visual information you have to track the ball through its arc, the better. I personally find the most confusing shots to hit are the ones that end up in the top left and bottom left corners of the court respectively. This is generally because those are essentially 2 blind spots, where you have very minimal information to actually track the ball through its arc because it's so close to the net still. So seeing and tracking its trajectory to these points is actually really, really difficult. Thankfully, these 2 spots are relatively unlikely to come up all that often, and so it makes sense to prioritize being able to see as many other places on the court as possible. If you're comfortable, you can spike for a little while at the beginning to just get you through the really slow first couple of balls. Just always make sure to recenter yourself after every spike so that you're always ready for the next one. We want to stay in the middle here to allow us to reach every corner of the court no matter where the snail sends the ball. Then, just tracking the arc of the ball, or by watching its shadow, which is what I normally do, then throwing Cappy towards it just before it hits the floor. This timing might take a little bit to get used to, but is fairly doable. Doing it this way makes the difficulty relatively consistent throughout the whole thing. All you have to do is adjust the timing of your cap throws, as obviously the speed at which the ball gets flung by the snail changes over time. So if you can make it to max speed, you can definitely make it to 100. This method definitely isn't foolproof. I don't really think there's such thing for this moon. You just have to find what makes it the easiest for you and just roll with it to success. Unless you're doing an all moons run, then you're either spiking the whole time, or you're cap throw farming against the net the whole time, which just adds a whole extra layer of difficulty to this already obnoxious moon. So at least that isn't you, right? One final tip I can give you is if you throw out Cappy towards a ball, and you just happen to miss, but the ball has hit the ground and you're in that little grace period, try shaking the controller. in the direction that the ball is, of course. We've gone over this before, but if you shake Cappy in a certain direction, he will home in that certain direction. You know, left, right, etc., etc. So who knows? Maybe Cappy will save you for once. Or maybe he won't. He probably won't. But maybe. Yeah, just give it a shot. So, we just learned how to get the volleyball moons. But maybe after that, you were left thinking to yourself, well, Tom Shee, I still don't have those damn jump rope moons. Why don't you explain that one, Mr. Smart Guy? And well, damn. That attitude, maybe I just will. Jump rope is just another one of Odyssey's more annoying moons, requiring a lot of good timing. 100 well-timed jumps, that is. And one small mistake when you're at 99 and it's all over and you have to go back to the beginning. Oh boy. So what kind of secret sauce am I gonna bring to this one, huh? It's not like you can just magically make this easier, Tom. You're right. Admittedly, there are only a few tips I can give you for this one. But that's not exactly a bad thing, because it means you won't get lost along the way. I just want you to know that originally, this was gonna be its own separate video, and I had a sick segue to a self-promo spot here. I'm not gonna do it, but I just want you to know that I could've. When it comes to jump rope, there are a few tried and true methods, ranging from audio cues when the NPC says, hey, to just spamming jump and hoping that it all works out. But really, I find those options to be inefficient and sort of archaic. Why bother with any of that stuff when you can use those two good eyeballs of yours? But let's go over a few things first. Short hops are your best friend with jump rope. Simply tap the jump button instead of holding it to hop and get way less height. You can throw out Cappy to cancel your vertical momentum. I use this in my runs to not only cap throw farm, but also hit a consistent rhythm with my jumps. And last up, jump rope hits max speed at 50. Jump rope is mostly about finding a rhythm and then using some visual cues to course correct when you drift from that rhythm. Let's go over how I do jump rope. The most important thing is that I jump just as the rope is about to hit the floor. I watch this spot right here and just wait for the rope to do its swing around until it gets to about this point. Then I hop. Once again by simply tapping the jump button. In the earlier phases, right up until just before it hits max speed, I'm also throwing out Cappy immediately after jumping and then shaking the controller to home in. This is both to jump throw farm because I run all moons, but also because I find throwing out Cappy to be a nice stabilizer in my rhythm. Once I get to about max speed, I swap to a sort of 1-2 rhythm of jumping and throwing out Cappy, then just jumping, then back and forth. I do this because motion controls aren't totally reliable and missing one at this speed is almost impossible to recover from and will just cause you to fail, and because I find this 1-2 rhythm to be an incredible help in maintaining the correct jump timing, with the added benefit that throwing out Cappy like this can be used to reset your rhythm if you drift too far off course. Ultimately though, throwing out Cappy like this is more of an option than a necessity, and simply short hopping when the rope is about to hit the floor is definitely more than good enough. Give it a try, and tell me how you go. But that's all from me today. I hope you learned how to get both of these really stupid moons within this heckin' video game. And before we sign off, I wanted to extend a huge thank you to the patrons over on Patreon, of course. These guys help make these videos possible, and they help support in ways that I can honestly barely even fathom. So we've got Turtle, Blue, Iwa, Durkable, King, Yason, Natasha, V, and Georgie. Forever indebted to these gamers. And if you want to help support the content or get early access to these videos before they go live on YouTube, I recommend checking out the Patreon. The link is down below. We would love to see you guys over there. But that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.